Hello, and welcome to today's episode. I'm going to be your host, the Irrelevant Nerd. Today, we're going to be ranking all 14 X-Men movies. So I decided to do this ranking because I was looking through the X-Men movies on Disney Plus, and I saw New Mutants, and it occurred to me that I had never seen it. And so I watched it, had opinions, and figured, hey, might as well rank them. The franchise is pretty much done. Like, we'll see the characters pop up in the next couple Avengers movies, but the universe is done. So it felt like a good time to do the ranking, and so I'm just going to hop right into it. Number 14, I'm going to go with X-Men Origins Wolverine. It's a movie I did talk about in my worst 10 comic book movies of all time video. I hate this movie. I cannot stand it. Everything about it just hits me the wrong way. The special effects, the character arcs, the way they use Deadpool, the fact that the movie isn't focused on Wolverine's actual origins because there's just so many other characters in it, and this movie was written during a writer's strike, and you can feel that. Like, Ryan Reynolds has come out in interviews and said that basically every line of dialogue that his character has, he wrote himself or made up on the spot because they didn't have a completed script, and it shows. And when you combine terrible script with terrible special effects for a character that everybody was super hyped to get this origin movie, and it was so bad that it killed the other X-Men origin movies they were thinking about doing, like Gambit and Magneto. So this one very much deserves to be in last place. Number 13, I'm going to go with New Mutants. I feel like I can see a very fun concept with this movie, but this movie is another one that unfortunately had a lot of trouble in pre-production, and they never got to do any reshoots or anything of that nature, and it shows. This movie feels like it should be the pilot episode or the first couple episodes of a mutant TV show. This movie feels intensely small scale. There's not a lot of action set pieces, so it's very much kind of a slow burn as you're going through it. And unfortunately, I don't think these characters or actors are likable enough to carry this movie forward. I do think the bright spot here is Anya Taylor-Joy as Magic, but even her character irritated me. For whatever reason, a lot of the accents in this movie really bothered me, in particular with hers. I know it's character accurate, but I don't know, for such a great actor, I was surprised that a lot of her line delivery sounded the way that it did, as well as the accent of, I cannot remember the dude's name who basically, he killed his dad, the coal miner. His accent's fucking terrible, and it also seems to come and go during certain parts of the film. Like, the accent's way less dramatic through the middle part of the movie, and then you do get to the final confrontation, and it's the most yee-haw fucking bullshit I've ever heard in my life. So you get to the end of this movie, and they get their freedom, and I felt nothing. This movie is a mess. Actors are a mess. Special effects are a mess. The story itself is very sloppy, and I wish they had gotten to do the reshoots, because I feel like you can see the concept here. Like, a horror movie inside of the X-Men movies could be really cool, but they just couldn't commit, and so we end up getting this, I don't know, just this super, super bland movie. Number 12. This was actually one of the harder ones to place for me because it came between two movies that are basically trying to tell the same story. 12, I'm going to go with Dark Phoenix, their second attempt in trying to tell the Phoenix saga, and they somehow made it worse. It's more accurate to the comic book story, but in a way, but the movie itself, I do think, is worse than the Last Stand, even though it does do the Phoenix aspect of it better. But the movie itself, I don't know, there's something off with the tone in the first half of this movie, and the special effects are very odd, especially with Beast. Like, a lot of his transformations look fucking terrible, and they looked better in older movies, and I never understand when that happens. Like, your budget is higher, like, the hype is higher. Like, why are you cutting corners here and there? And the best sequence of this movie is the end action set piece on the train. That's a great scene. It's extremely entertaining, and Magneto is such a badass. But that film was a product of reshoots, and it's the best scene of the movie. And I don't know, the bad guy here with what's her name, Jessica Chastain. Her performance is intensely flat because she's supposed to play this alien that doesn't really feel emotions. Like, you see her get kind of upset a few times, but she's very one note through the entire movie. And I don't know, as a villain, you don't really care about what they're doing. You can't really tell how big of a threat they are because they're trying to get this Phoenix Force, and they can kill regular humans no problem, but they do have a ton of problem fighting really any mutant one-on-one. So I'm like, really, how big of a threat are they without this Phoenix Force? And the main one that you're dealing with does not have any menace and does not have a lot of screen presence, even though Jessica Chastain is a fine actor. And I like a lot of the stuff with Magneto in this movie. Even outside of that train scene, Michael Fassbender is just the fucking man. But even a lot of the stuff that they do with him and Genosha, like, there was supposed to be this scene that took place at the United Nations, and they cut it, and I don't know. This movie seems like this one was supposed to be 2 parts, and they squished it into 1 part and fucked up the Phoenix story again. Like, even after fans were willing to give them another chance to try again, they somehow did it even fucking worse than the last time. Like, the Phoenix stuff is better, but the movie itself is worse. Which brings us to number 11, X-Men: The Last Stand. The reason that I think this one is better than Dark Phoenix is because the bones of the movie are better. This movie has a lot of interesting things going on, like with the mutant cure, Magneto's brotherhood of mutants, and all this stuff that they're trying to cram. So they're basically trying to cram 3 stories into 1 movie, and that's the problem, is no individual storyline gets enough time to shine and develop. But each of these stories individually are exciting and interesting and compelling in their own way. And I think this movie has better moments than The Dark Phoenix. And it still kind of has that feel of the first 2 movies, and a little bit of you're attached to these characters, and their motivations you understand. And so for me, that is just what lifts this movie better, even though I do think the actual Phoenix Saga stuff in this movie is a worse representation of what the Phoenix Force is, how Jean reacts to it, and all that stuff. But there are great things in this movie that are just cut short by how crowded this movie actually is. Like, the scene with Professor Xavier dying is actually a really good scene, and the way that it's done is pretty cool, with her power basically just being too much for his body and just ripping him apart. But there's not a lot of time to, like, sit with the death of Charles Xavier, and then it's retconned later in the movie when it's revealed that he's taken over the subconscious of a different dude, which is then never addressed in any of the future movies. He still just is Patrick Stewart. So this movie has a lot of flaws, for sure. Don't get me wrong. It's a total pile of shit. But I think it is just a little bit better than Dark Phoenix, and the emotional moments work a little bit better for me. Like in Dark Phoenix, when Raven dies, I feel nothing, and I think it's because everybody knew that the main reason that she was the one who died was because Jennifer Lawrence had reached a point where she was just done with these movies. She was phoning it in. This is easily her worst performance in any of them, whereas in Last Stand, I feel like everybody is trying. It's just not coming together the way that they thought that it should. Number 10, we're going to go with X-Men Apocalypse. Now, this is the last movie of all the X-Men movies that I would give a negative grade to. All the movies below this are not ones that I particularly ever want to rewatch. I do find myself rewatching The Last Stand every so often just because I'll watch the first X-Men and X2 and then I'll be like, you know what? Might as well close out the trilogy. So I do watch that one every so often, but I don't really want to. I never start with that one. But X-Men Apocalypse has so much potential to be better than it was. There are a lot of really great moments and characters in this movie. In particular, Magneto's opening in this movie is so fucking good. It's one of the best scenes in the entire any of the X-Men movies. It's that good when his daughter accidentally gets killed and then he ends up killing a bunch of these soldiers with I believe it's dog tags he just sends flying through all of their necks, and it's fucking incredible. And again, Michael Fassbender is just the fucking man at playing Magneto. Like, he is so goddamn good. But then you have Apocalypse, who's a great X-Men villain, and he was a different villain than what we had been getting before, a completely different type, and so I like that. But then the way that his character is used, you get a tiny little bit of backstory and flashes, and then he comes to this world and he's like touching the TV screen and like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm learning. And then he just knows everything, I guess, as opposed to he's just powerful. So he instinctively starts to pick up things, which would have been cooler. You have the scene, with Quicksilver. It's another great slow motion scene. I think it's actually maybe a little bit more fun than the first one they did, as he's going through the mansion, he's saving all the kids, he's tossing them out the window, and song choice phenomenal. I really love it all, but then, I don't know, you get to the end conflict and it's way too long. Like, this movie is way too long. I think it's like 2.5 hours. It should be maybe like 2:05, 2:10 at max. This final battle's like 45 minutes long. You have Magneto hovering in the sky with like chunks of metal and earth and trash and whatever floating around him, and that's really kind of all he's doing in this scene. Sometimes he's, directing that flow of metal going around him like towards something, but it just feels very anticlimactic, even though it is this big battle. And there are these moments that you want, like Quicksilver telling Magneto, hey, you're my dad, that we end up not getting, and we don't get in any of the movies, and we'll never see any type of resolution with, like, whatsoever. And I don't know. It's so many pieces of this movie are good. It really should work better, and I don't know why it doesn't, or what they were trying to do, but I don't understand, especially because with the younger crew, like the prequel crew of the X-Men movies, I really like them, and I thought the first two, they were just cooking on all cylinders, and then I don't know if they just ran out of steam, if the turnaround time was too quick, or if the studio was trying to mandate certain things to be in this movie, and that's why it's so overbloated. But it's massively disappointing. I think I've only watched it twice, and because it is so long, I don't ever really want to commit the time to rewatch it, and so I don't foresee myself gaining a more positive opinion like with time. The more I reflect on it, the less I like it. But let's go ahead and move on to number 9. And all of these movies from here on out, I would give a positive grade to. I would recommend them to fans of the space or just fans of movies in general. But number 9, we're going to go with The Wolverine. This movie, I think, is intensely underrated, and I don't think a lot of people gave it a shot after X-Men Origins Wolverine. But this movie does a lot of great character building for Wolverine. Logan, like, going to Japan, meeting this man that he saved in World War II, grappling with the concept of potentially wanting to give up his immortality because of everything that he's been through and all the pain and all the loss, and he's very clearly not super happy, and so he's tempted to it. But the way that this movie wraps up in the third finales, it just turns into the very stereotypical CGI cartoony boss fight and kind of just wrecks the tone of the movie, which is why it's not higher, because unfortunately the third act is typically what stays with you, and because this one fell so flat comparatively to the rest of the movie, it's unfortunately this low on the list, even though I think there is really a lot to love here, and I do love seeing him in Japan. There is, in the comics, he goes to Japan, he learns how to fight. Like, Wolverine he's not just a brawler because he's, got this adamantium and he's got the healing factor, so he can just take hit after hit. Like, Wolverine is a very, very trained fighter who has learned many different styles and techniques, and he did study with the samurai. And Hugh Jackman puts on a really great performance here, and there are a lot of fun action set pieces in this movie, in particular the train sequence. There are some moments that do make you roll your eyes, but it's fun, and watching him like crawl around on the outside of the train and like sticking his claws in, it's very Wolverine-esque, and I do love it. But you just hit that end and it falls a little flat, and Wolverine gets his metal claws cut off, which is never really addressed later, because the next time you see him, he has the metal claws again, which is a big problem with the X-Men franchise in general. Is the canon, it really is all over the place due to just conflicting things that you see in these movies. But if you have not seen it, I really would recommend this movie. It's a lot of fun. It's not the best that we've seen Hugh Jackman play Wolverine, but it's one of his better performances. And don't let X-Men Origins Wolverine scare you away. This is a movie that is worth watching, especially if you're an X-Men fan or just a fan of the comic book movie genre in general. This one is one that you should watch, and I don't know why it doesn't get more love. Number 8, I'm going to go with Deadpool 2. Great movie, a lot of fun, loved Cable. It lacks the freshness of the original movie, and it also seems to lack the focus and the plot of the original movie. The first Deadpool movie is extremely simple. Very simple plot, and the reason the movie is so great is because it's picked up with the humor, the performances, and just the fresh, different vibe of the movie in general. This movie, it's a lot of fun. I think that the side characters here are really great, like X-Force. I mean, they all die super fast, but you have a lot of fun with them, in particular with Peter, who shows up again in Deadpool and Wolverine. And you have, oh my God, what's her name? She's played by Zazie Beetz. Domino, and her power is luck, which Deadpool jokes isn't a power, but the way they visualize her powers in this movie is perfect. Like, everything just kind of works out for her, barely misses her, goes her way, guns jam, things flip and barely miss her, and she's able to just keep walking out of a moving car because she's just so lucky. And that is a lot of fun, and the time travel aspect it's very interesting. I like that they bring Cable back. It's very true to what he's doing in the comics. So, and Josh Brolin just absolutely nails it as this character. You have the fight scene with Juggernaut, which is a lot of fun. He doesn't look very good CGI-wise, but a lot of fun seeing Juggernaut in here. You have you have a few hints towards, the Essex Corporation, which you also got in New Mutants, but what a waste. Or even Once Upon a Deadpool. That's also a lot of fun. Like the PG-13 recut of this movie, it's funny, like in its own different way, because it's more of like a novel concept. And I'd never watched that one over Deadpool 2, but it's funny that it exists. But just getting to spend more time with this character is great. More time with Dopinder trying to prove himself in this movie. Comedy is there. It's probably just as funny as the first, but just without that. Yeah, without the freshness, I just don't know. I just am never compelled to rewatch this one as much as the first one. And now that we have Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm going to watch that one more than this one. It's not bad by any stretch. It's just very another Deadpool movie. That's what it feels like. It's good, not great, not bad in any way, just lacks the freshness. Number 7, we're going to go with the one that started it all. The original X-Men. I don't think this movie gets as much love as it does. The superhero like superhero movie genre would be drastically different had this movie not succeeded in the way that it did, and then was followed up by Spider-Man, which propelled it even more. But they were able to do a team-up superhero movie, and it all works pretty well. There are some things in this movie that I don't like. Like, I don't love the characterization of Rogue in particular, but all the other cast members are so good. Like, you believe them as these characters. Like, Ian McKellen as Magneto is fantastic. His introduction showing him trying to like bend the gates in the concentration camp, trying to get back to his mother, is moving stuff. And I mean, Patrick Stewart's the fucking man. So like, he's a great Charles Xavier, and I do think they do a good job like introducing him, showing how he cares for these students and how they all revere him, and how compassionate and caring, and how he really just wants what's best for the mutants and humanity. Like, he wants to be that bridge in between the two worlds so everybody can have peace. And a lot of the action scenes in this movie are a lot of fun. Statue of Liberty, pretty much everything going on there is great. You have Mystique coming in and trying to fool everybody because she looks like Wolverine and nobody can quite tell who she is, and it's like a fun mystery aspect there during the fight when you see certain characters pop out from behind the corner. You do have that the infamous Halle Berry line, what's like how does it go, is, do you know what happens when a toad is struck by lightning? Same thing that happens to everybody else. And he's shocked, and then he just kind of, I don't know, much slower than he should, falls into the water. But this movie is so fun, and it's so filled with nostalgia for me, and I appreciate it so much for helping to pave the runway for all comic book movies that came before it. If you haven't seen it, obviously watch it. It's one of the all-time greats, and it does such a good job setting up this world. Like, for the first movie of a universe, which, they plan on making sequels and ended up expanding into this thing, especially after the MCU started, but it sets up the world. It shows how the mutant powers work super well. It shows that there's just this vast array of powers, which is really cool and exciting because you never know what, like, these new people are going to do. And it's fun to see all these characters from comic books brought to life in such... maybe not faithful, because it's not a direct adaptation of any X-Men story per se, but it takes itself seriously, and I appreciate that. It doesn't just ham everything up for a joke. Like, there is comedy in here. It's a comic book movie. Obviously, there is comedy in here, but it's not the focus, and it feels natural and organic, and it's way toned down from like what you get in comic book movies now, especially the MCU or the new Superman. But watch it if you haven't. This is a great movie, and it is so important for the genre, and I don't think it gets enough like respect in that regards. Number 6, we're going to go with Deadpool and Wolverine. I do know that this is technically an MCU movie, but it is spiritually another X-Men movie. It's the closeout to the entire saga. What a fun experience. Like, this and Spider-Man No Way Home are such beautiful gifts to the fans. Story, obviously paper thin, why I can't have it a lot higher, because there are some things to eye roll at the movie, but this one, especially with the addition of Wolverine being the other main lead here, brings some freshness back to the comedy. Like, it's still not quite as fresh as the original Deadpool, but I don't know, there is the extra aspect of the multiverse, and they're able to have a lot of fun with it and have a lot of Easter eggs. You have Gambit and Blade and Jennifer Garner coming back as Elektra, and Chris Evans as Human Torch, and it is just a lot of eye candy and member berries, but this movie is a fun time, and it hits all the emotional beats well enough. Like, the story is thin, but you do care what's happening, and you care about these characters. Like, and you do care about the characters more than the story, which is a weakness, in movie making. But it's not, this movie's not bad in any way, shape, or form, despite what the internet is trying to tell you after this, like, year or so of revisionist history of this movie was always trash and nobody liked it. Totally. That's why it's only the highest grossing rated R movie of all time. No, this movie is good. It's so fun. And especially like if you're a comic book fan, like getting to see all these variants of Wolverine or of Deadpool and getting to see him interact with the sacred timeline, it's all good stuff. Like, what are you fucking complaining about? Like, yeah, it's still the same type of comedy as the first Deadpool, and I get that, and even that's a complaint of mine, is it's less fresh, but it's also, that's how fucking Deadpool is. That's how his comedy works. Like, he's always going to be that same type of dude. Like, he will have character growth and try to attach more to the people around him, but he is still Deadpool. And so, like, I don't know why you would want to change him into this, like, serious character now or try to change up the comedy to a different style. Like, I don't even know what that would look like, but this movie is fantastic. It deserves to be the number one, like, highest rated R movie of all time. Like, it is that good. And to close out the universe in such a respectful way, to show reverence for these characters and love for these characters, and then you have that final montage of all the behind the scenes footage. This movie is a love letter, and I love it, and I'm not going to let the internet change my mind. I know a lot of people still love it, but there is definitely a dedicated group of people online now that for whatever reason are trying to tell everybody it's bad, and it's not. Number 5, I'm going to go with X-Men X2. I actually don't, is that the title? It's just X2? Am I just blanking? Whatever, we're going to call it X2 because that's what's coming to mind right now. This is a perfect example of how to do a sequel better. The story is bigger. There's a little bit more mystery with Logan's past here. The characters seem a little bit more pushed to the edge. Acting here is top-notch. Across the board, everybody does a good job. The villain is compelling with Stryker, and the more you go into the movie, the more you realize this guy is just a fucking piece of shit, and what, you know, he's willing to do to his own child just to get to his end goal. And you want this guy stopped. Like, he needs to be put down. And I can't believe I didn't start with the opening scene of this movie with Nightcrawler breaking into the White House. Oh my God, this scene is so fucking good. It's so tense, and like these humans are just getting fucked up, and this is just one mutant, and it does such a good job of building this world where the humans are so afraid of the mutants, which is so important in the X-Men comics. Is the X-Men really are these outsiders who are trying to protect themselves and are just trying to find a way to help and be accepted in this society. But you have so much in here. The small little like Easter eggs of Logan's memory coming back slowly through the movie, and then he gets to this facility where he was given the adamantium and he lost his memory. You have Lady Deathstrike in this movie, and she's not the best version of the character, but it is a lot of fun to see her fighting with Wolverine when she's like stabbing him in the back and shit, and he eventually ends up able to drown her and fill her with the adamantium, and she's not able to take it. But this movie ups everything in every way. Like, each character progresses. You have Storm moving more into a leadership role as she's helping Nightcrawler try to overcome his lack of confidence in his powers, and helps him teleport to somewhere he's never seen before so they can help all these kids that were kidnapped, and the government's trying to experiment on them and see, you know, this, that, and the other thing. But really just a great example of, we know what worked about the first one, and we're just going to continue to do that and see if we can add on, and it's beautiful. They did such a good job. And this is another one of those movies that I don't really think gets as much love as it should, and I do think it's because the original trilogy closed out with The Last Stand, left a bad taste in people's mouth, and then just the inconsistent quality of the franchise since then is, people have a hard time giving these movies a chance, I feel like. But it's another one, if you have not seen this movie, check it out. Like, X2 is so good. It's better than X-Men in every single way. Like I said, it's inside my top 5. It it is that good. Like, cannot recommend this movie enough, especially if you do like a little bit more of complexity to your characters and how they interact with the world and their origins and the story. It's just, I don't know, it feels fresh in its own way while still feeling just like one of these classic comic book movie stories. Number 4, we're going to go with Deadpool. So this one, when I was actually ranking them through, I was like, how could I logically have Deadpool 4th in this list when it's number 10 on my greatest comic book movies of all time, and there are movies above this that are not on this list. So Deadpool, the reason I think it goes as one of the greatest comic book movies of all time is because the story behind how it's made, they basically had to fight tooth and nail to get this thing made, and the fans were a really big part of it, letting the studio know that yes, we want this. But it's so fresh, and it's such a unique superhero movie that if I'm looking at top 10 superhero movies that I have to recommend to everybody, this is obviously one that you have to see. Now, the reason that it's number 4 on the X-Men list is like when I'm rating it as an X-Men movie is, it is an extremely simple plot, which I do think is a positive, but is not quite as interesting as the movies above this list. But again, this is a movie I have almost nothing but positive things to say about. Like, I had high expectations going in because my hype level was so intense, and the trailers they put out really sold me out. I'm like, this is gonna be fucking awesome. And you go and watch it, and it really was that awesome. I don't know if I have laughed harder at a movie in the past 10 to 12 years than the first time that I saw Deadpool in theaters. This movie is so goddamn funny. But beyond that, the action is so fucking cool. And you can tell that the movie has a smaller budget, and so there are some shots that don't look the best, but the action is just so fun, especially the opening scene. You have dudes getting whipped out of cars and smushed against like billboard and freeway signs, like literally squished. You hear them go like, and it makes me laugh every time. You have him counting down his bullets and using the one bullet to shoot through the 3 dudes. A lot of things that you would see in this movie you're not going to see in other type of comic book movies. That's why I do believe it is one of the top 10 greatest comic book movies of all time, but narratively speaking, it is so simple. Not in a bad way, but it doesn't have quite the buildup that the 3 movies above this one do, but no negatives here. I thought this was perfect across the board. The side characters, Ryan Reynolds, he absolutely nails it as this character, and obviously has such a love and reverence for this character that I cannot imagine any more of a perfect first Deadpool movie than this movie that we got. Number 3, I'm going to go with X-Men Days of Future Past. A lot of people will have this as their number 1 or number 2. I think it is one of the best. It's such a fun story that the Days of Future Past is definitely one of the more famous X-Men stories. I would say probably the Dark Phoenix saga is easily the most famous, but Days of Future Past is up there, and I was familiar with it initially because they had done a small version of it in the X-Men cartoon back in the day, and so when they announced a Days of Future Past movie, I was like, oh, that's going to be really cool. Admittedly, I was very skeptical because we had just gotten First Class, and I liked all of the actors, but then the next movie that we see them in, they're like, oh, it's like a bridge universe or a bridge movie between the 2 different timelines of the old actors and this new First Class group of actors. But the way that they're able to craft this story and have Wolverine be the one that they're sending back as opposed to like Bishop, like it is in the comics, and obviously they do that because Wolverine is the main character of all these movies and is the most popular character in all of the movies by far, and so obviously you're going to want to center the story around him. But you see this future world, and man, shit is fucking bleak. But you see these mutants working together who normally wouldn't be working together. You know, you have Magneto again working with Charles Xavier and Kitty Pryde and Rogue, depending on which version of the movie you watch. And they're all working together because things are really that bleak. Like, it seems like there is no hope. And the way that they try to do the time travel in this movie, I really, really like. I think the logic makes sense for the most part, even though there are things that happen in this movie that do directly contradict the timeline of the other movies. But having Mystique wanting to be the one to go out and fight for this freedom again, because she can look like anybody, you never know where she's coming from, and you have her kind of being on opposite sides of the spectrum from both Charles and Magneto, and it just creates this really interesting narrative that as you're watching through and you're watching Wolverine back in the past, he doesn't have the adamantium claws yet, and he meets Charles Xavier, and Charles is in a completely different place than the Charles Xavier he knows. He's all fucking drugged up so he can keep walking, but his powers aren't working, and he's very bitter and depressed. Like, I think the first thing he says to Wolverine is like, oh, to repeat what you said to me many years ago, that you fuck off. And he's just this bitter person since what happened to his spine, which makes sense. But you move these characters through, and you have some moments where you have like Patrick Stewart talking to James McAvoy, and it feels so fun for the fans because there is a lot of love for the original actors who played these movies, and I feel like there is a lot of love for the first class actor, like, who came and took over some of these roles. And you have Trask played by Peter Dinklage, and you have the Sentinels being introduced, and you see the threat, and you see why Mystique is so worried, but you also understand why everybody is trying to stop her. And the emotional beats of this movie work so well, as you see these characters basically just struggling for their very existence, and to just be able to live a non-shitty life, and then for it to end, and you see the changes in the timeline. Like, Jean and Scott are still alive, and it kind of goes back to the original crew, which I really wish we had gotten another movie with them after this, that maybe would give them a better send-off. But if this is their send-off, holy shit. This is one that I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. Like, when I watch rankings, it's always pretty high in the rankings, but casually I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, and I don't understand it. Like, it's this big crossover movie. You have tons of fucking characters, you have great action, the score is fantastic, the directing is solid. So I don't understand why this one isn't more in the cultural zeitgeist, like a Logan or Infinity War, Endgame. Like, it's not as good as those movies, obviously, but I don't know, it's this big comic book event film that really nails it. So I am genuinely surprised that I don't hear more people talking about it. Number 2, I'm going to go with X-Men First Class. I had little to no expectations for this movie when I was going in, and holy shit, this new cast is so good. Like, I love Ian McKellen, don't get me wrong, but I do prefer Michael Fassbender in the role. He fucking nails it. And for me, like, he is really what brings this movie up. James McAvoy does a great job. You get all of these younger actors, like Cyclops' brother is one of the characters. You have the Hellfire Club as your main villains with, like, Sebastian Shaw and Emma Frost, played wonderfully by Kevin Bacon, and I cannot remember the actor's name who plays Emma Frost. Something January? Not important. Movie is fucking fantastic. The comedy of this movie is very subtle, but it works so well. I don't think there's a single comedy moment in this movie that makes me eye roll. There is one moment that makes me eye roll, and it's when Sebastian Shaw kills his fucking name is escaping me. But kills the dude who basically can adapt to anything to survive. And he's like, adapt to this. And it just splits him in half. And I'm like, what a waste of a character and what a waste of a good actor. And I'm glad that he's got to come around and be Mr. Terrific in the new Superman movie, because I think he's good for these roles. Like, he has a charisma to him that I enjoy. But beyond just the actors and the characters in this movie, the score is fucking ridiculous, especially Magneto's theme. Like, when he goes down to Peru, Argentina, when he goes down to South America to chase these Nazis, he ends up running into 3 of them in a bar and ends up just fucking torturing these dudes and killing them. That scene is so good because Michael Fassbender is absolutely acting the shit out of it. But then the score, like his theme is very tone heavy, and they do it again when he's trying to catch Sebastian Shaw's ship. I cannot recommend this movie enough. And like, coming from zero expectations, this movie, yeah, it really fucking kind of blew my mind. Matthew Vaughn's a great director. I thought he was a great pick, but it has a retro feel because it takes place in the past, and you believe the world that they're in and the technology that they have, and kind of you can see the starts of technology here that you would see when the team is older in the earlier movies. And so those Easter eggs are fun. And you're looking around seeing, you know, which young version of the characters are we going to get? And you have, oh my God, at the end. So you have Magneto finally able to confront Sebastian Shaw, who it turns out was the one who killed his mom in front of him because he was trying to get Magneto to, like, use his powers to forge him into a weapon. Ultimately didn't realize he was forging the person who would end up being his ultimate downfall. But the scene where Sebastian Shaw has the Magneto helmet on, which is preventing Charles from stopping him, and then you have Magneto going in to fight him and is able to slowly use this metal pipe wire in the back to grab the helmet, and Charles Xavier freezes him. And I love this scene for a couple reasons. One is you have Charles Xavier say something like to the effect of, I can only hold this man for so long. You've seen all movie how big of a threat he is and his organization is. It's just another one of those moments that really shows this guy is not fucking around. Like, Charles Xavier at this point is the most powerful psychic on the planet, and he's barely able to hold this dude. But with Michael Fassbender putting on the helmet so Charles cannot stop him from doing what he's doing, and he just lifts the coin into the air with his powers, and he's like, I'm gonna count to 3. And it's like 1, and the coin just slowly starts moving. 2, and it's slowly moving. 3, and just as he says 3, it starts pushing into Shaw's skull. But he does it fucking slow. It's not like he whips it through like he did with the dog tags after the soldiers accidentally killed his daughter. Like, he does it slow because you know that he wants him to feel every last second of pain and terror as his life is ended. And I get it. Like, that dude killed his mom, and Magneto has had an intensely hard life, and so the way that he reacts, I think, is so fucking perfect. And then you get the heartbreaking scene of he comes out to the beach and he's talking to the mutants about all the boats, and he's like, no, it's us against them. Like, I know we've been fighting these mutants, but it's really humans versus mutants. I can feel them pointing their guns at it. I can feel the metal moving, ready to launch. And so all the missiles do ultimately launch, and then Magneto goes to send them back at the humans, and it looks like those ships are just going to get wiped out, and the team tries to stop him. Moira McTaggart? Whatever, the agent that's been palling along with Charles Xavier, the one who initially reached out to get his help because she had the initial run-ins with the mutants, shooting at him, and Magneto's deflecting the bullets like a total badass, and then one slow motion, you see it, hits Xavier in the spine, and anybody who's a fan of the movies, the comics, the characters, you immediately know. You're like, oh, fuck. Like, that's what puts him in the wheelchair. And you see that Magneto has regret, and he didn't mean to hurt Charles, like, clearly. But then Charles just kind of has this moment where he's like, no, like, this was you. This is your fault. It is what it is. And so Magneto, takes a few of the mutants with him, goes off, and then that's where Charles and Eric's paths diverge. But it's such a well-done scene, and this movie is so fucking good. And I know that a lot of people skipped it because the X-Men movie quality at that point had already been starting to dip, and it was new actors and nobody knew how they felt. But this is when if you have not watched it, watch this movie. It is so fucking good. You will be surprised by how good of a time you are having, and when the movie ends, you're just going to want more with these characters, which that's what these franchise movies are supposed to do, is they're supposed to get you excited for what's ahead while still being a beautifully functioning movie by itself. Number one, and this should really be no surprise to anybody because it seems to be the consensus number one amongst like 97 to 99% of fans, but we're going to go with Logan. What a beautiful way to close out this Wolverine story. And I know that they end up bringing Hugh Jackman back to play a different Wolverine for Deadpool and Wolverine, but I don't think that tarnishes this movie at all. This movie is fucking flawless from the opening scene until the very final shot on his grave. The opening scene where he's a limo driver and he's dealing with these fucking drunk idiot assholes, and they end up getting in a fight with him, and he ends up fucking killing these dudes, and he like stabs one of them through the back of the head, and you see his claws like come through the front of the face, and I was like, oh, okay, so like this is rated R, and I was so hyped after that moment. But then that scene does a really good job because it shows him in the recovery, and he's healing slower, and he's dealing with a lot of shit, and he's not happy, and it just does such a good job of setting this character, or letting you know where this character is. And then you get the introduction of X-23 a little bit later in the movie, and it just it gives Wolverine a purpose again. It gives him something to care about and to push forward, even though he's reluctant. He doesn't want to do it because that's who his character is. He's just a fucking grumpy old man at this point, and he just wants to take care of Charles and get them on a boat so they can get out and be safe. And you have this complication pop up into his life that just absolutely changes everything, including like himself as a character. It gives him something greater than himself to actually care about in this little girl who is revealed to more or less be his daughter because they used his DNA to give her powers, and they form this like adorable little family with Professor X, Wolverine, and X-23 as they're doing this road trip trying to get her across the country. And you have that heartbreaking scene where Xavier dies, and he thinks it's Logan initially, which, man, I hope he was able to read that clone's mind and realize that it was not like Logan in that moment. Like, I know that you do get some peaceful resolution with the character later on, but what a sinking feeling when you see the look of betrayal on Charles' face when this clone just fucking stabs him through the stomach. He's just an old man laying in bed and presents this opposition to Wolverine, where even though he is weakened, he's been having a hard time in this movie, but now you have the younger version of him, and how the fuck are you going to handle it? And he gets Daphne Keane to where she's going, and he discovers these kids, and he sends them off because he's like, I did my part and I'm done and I'm going to get that boat and blah, 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 blah. And then he sees that the kids are being pursued, so he ends up taking basically the equivalent of like X-Men steroids. They give him this temporary boost to fucking chase everybody down, start fucking these people up, but unfortunately it starts wearing off near the end, and they release the clone again. And just through the series of the battles of the clone and all the damage he had taken getting there to save these kids, The clone, picks him up and throws him down onto a fucking tree stump that, like, a big chunk of the stump just comes through his fucking stomach. And then X-23 is able to shoot the clone with an adamantium bullet, drops him, and she's able to go and have just this, what a heartbreaking moment when Wolverine is dying. This character that we've all known for, 16, 17 years at this point when this movie came out. And one of the things we know is he can't die. Like, he heals, but they had done such a good job setting up this whole movie that he's so sick and his body is being poisoned by this thing that basically gave him like this ridiculous amount of strength and durability over his life, is now what's ultimately bringing his life to an end. And like, what a beautiful line for him to be like, so like, this is what it feels like, referencing to die. And then, X-23 is obviously heartbroken, and they do a burial for him, and she takes his, like, the cross that they made for his grave, and she leans it down to be the X, and then the camera pans out, and you see the kids walking off into the forest, and you see Wolverine's grave. And I cannot imagine any more of a beautiful send-off for a character than what we were able to get in this movie that was entirely focused on him, unlike the X-Men Origins Wolverine. It's like, this is Wolverine's movie. You do have X-23 and these other elements, but he is the main character, driving force. He is the most character growth of anybody in the whole movie. Just an absolute 10 out of 10. Fucking love it. Obviously, you've not seen it. Watch it. One of the best of all time. It's so good. All right, so quick recap here. At number 14, we have X-Men Origins Wolverine. Number 13, we have New Mutants. 12, Dark Phoenix. 11, X-Men The Last Stand. 10, X-Men Apocalypse. 9, The Wolverine. Number 8, Deadpool 2. Number 7, X-Men. Number 6, Deadpool and Wolverine. Number 5, X-Men X2. Number 4, Deadpool. Number 3, X-Men Days of Future Past. 2, X-Men First Class. And number 1, easily, even though I do love First Class, Logan. So let me know what your list is down below. As always, if you don't want to do the whole list or you haven't seen them all, give me a top 3, bottom 3, top 1, bottom 1, whatever you want to do. As I was checking over to make sure that I had actually seen all the movies, because the New Mutants one kind of surprised me, I noticed that there are some TV shows, in particular the show Legion. It's not a show that I've watched. I feel like I've heard good things in the past, but I haven't heard anybody talk about it in a while. So if you've seen that show, let me know down below. Is that something I need to watch? Obviously, like, you don't need to watch it to understand the story of any of the other movies, but is this good? Would this be a fun watch, or is it just another one of those X-Men properties that does have its high moments, but is also frustrating because they just do a lot of, like, suboptimal things in terms of writing and the way they use the characters? But if you've seen it, please let me know. I'm thinking about checking it out. There are so many shows and movies that I want to watch that this is one of those ones that I need somebody to tell me, is it worth it? Should I invest my time? Let me know. But yeah, let me know what you think of the X-Men movies. Like, I don't think they've ever been given quite the love that the MCU movies have been, or even maybe are not talked about as much as like the DCEU movies. But these movies are very important to the genre. And, the bottom 5, I give mostly negative grades to. Like, there are things to enjoy, especially if you enjoy the characters. But the top 9 movies, these are all solid superhero movies. So if you haven't seen them, watch them and let me know what you think down below, and hopefully I'll see you guys on the next one.